Hello and welcome to another short series of Diagnostik80's reviews. I'm Chris McLeod, aka Diagnostik80 from the Full Force podcast, and I'm very happy to finally bring you a number of videos covering these final offerings from the Gijcc Collectors Club. I got my delivery earlier today and wasted no time in unboxing and filming so that I could show off these cool toys. I didn't end up getting the Night Stalkers, but only because the price was very high on this last run of product and something had to go. This particular video will focus on the European exclusive Tiger Force from the final 12, and as a disclaimer, I won't be opening any of these because, well, you know how much they cost, right? I have to be honest, I never thought I would see the day when the Euro Tiger Force all existed in the modern format. That day is today. I am blown away. I remember a lot from my childhood. It was generally a very positive experience and I'm very grateful for that, but there are some memories that stand out more than others. It's probably of no surprise to those that know me that some of my dearest memories relate in some way to action figures, and in particular Action Force and G.I. Joe. Even more specifically, the European exclusive Tiger Force figures. I vividly remember to this day buying both Outback and Psych Out at the same time from Gerald's in Norwich. I also remember picking up Sneak Peek from Langley's in the same city. In fact, it's very weird that I can do this, but I can remember where I bought or was gifted an Action Force or G.I. Joe figure or vehicle in every instance when I was younger. I struggle to remember where I bought a Joe figure last week now, but as soon as I see a particular character that I had as a child, I'm instantly transported to that moment in time when I grabbed it from a shelf or peg, held it lovingly, and then gave it to mum or dad to deal with the monetary transaction. This affliction is particularly strong when the Euro Tiger Force are involved, and one of the main reasons I love them so much. When Outback and Sneak Peek were revealed at Con a number of years ago prior to their release in the FSS4, I stood up in the middle of the room and screamed at the top of my lungs. I was the only one doing that at the time, so it looked funny. Likewise, when these remaining Tiger Force decos were revealed for the final 12 at the last JoeCon ever in Chattanooga, I went one better and ran around the room screaming and even kissed a number of club staff on the stage.
So we got him here, and there's
I do not regret any of these decisions. I was happy, very happy. I couldn't remove the smile from my face the whole time I was opening this box and looking at these figures. For me, this was the best way the club could have left it, and as much as I will miss the figures and the product, what a way to bow out. I know that isn't a feeling most of you have, and I understand that. My connection to the originals has a lot to do with that, and I get it, but damn man. I mean, damn. Starting with Tunnel Rat, the club went with the Renegades version for this repaint, which on the surface is probably a better figure than the 25th version, but for the Tiger Force repaint I'm not sure if it translates as well. Thankfully, the deco is on point and totally awesome, with more colours than most rainbows. It's funny that they made his face paint look like whiskers, which has to be a club thing because the original had a more haphazard and sporadic face paint layout. The more I look at them together, the more I like the decision to use this base figure. The pouches on the thighs are a little jarring and unnecessary, but overall the deco is perfect. The orange and tiger stripe bandana, red shirt, blue trousers with black tiger stripes, yellow neckerchief, blue gloves, it's all there and in perfect working order. He gets one flashlight, that massive machine gun with sight and bipod, his green satchel, pistol for the chest holster, bandolier across his chest, separate ammo belt for feeding into the machine gun, and his figure stand. He really needs his backpack in my opinion, and that is something that could have been rectified easily. Overall though, this is a great replication of the original, and I love how he looks in this Renegade's body. The card art is also interesting. The original art had to be redrawn for the European market because of the laws against guns and weapons on kids' toys packaging. The first two Euro exclusives in 1990, Outback and Psych Out, just had the original art drawn over, but in the case of Tunnel Rat, Blizzard, Hit and Run and Sneak Peek the following year, they had a number of big changes to their originals. In Tunnel Rat's case, his machine gun was put behind him up against the tunnel wall, and he had one of his backpack flashlights in hand instead. Not just that, but the TNT was also removed from his satchel pack. The club have decided to rejig his original US art, and therefore the gun returns, TNT is back, his backpack has disappeared, and those thigh pouches have been added. The bio contains most of the same details from the original, with a number of additions to help fit more into the club's continuity. Psych Out was definitely one I was looking forward to seeing. An odd favourite of mine growing up, the original had some wild deco choices as well as completely different colour hair to his first figure. This is something that makes me chuckle to myself. The thought of the higher-ups telling him that he's in the new team but he has to replicate the exact uniform he already wears just in a different colour and design. Oh, and he has to dye his hair black. I mean, that's hilarious, isn't it? The club got around the same problem with Outback's sudden white hair by using him in the Compound Z storyline that had him bitten by zombies. He was cured, but the resulting scenario made his hair stay white, a rather inspired way of dealing with that issue. Psych Out, however, doesn't get the same treatment. Even so, this figure is gorgeous. I love the Night Force version, I love the original Deco version, and now I love this version. They can't go wrong with him in my eyes, and that repurposed Adam Rich's art is the bomb. Beautiful work, and he's up there as one of my faves in the modern line now too. He keeps his red elbow dishes, the weird silver boombox radar dish thingy, a pistol, a rather cool looking weapon, and that grey silver backpack. A rather funny addition to this figure is the correct, separate figure stand that unfortunately didn't make it in the package itself. An error at the factory had them pack stands that said codename Psych Out instead of Tiger Force Psych Out, so that came taped to the shipping info. Brilliant. The main info on the bio is basically the same as the original with a few alterations to the main body for the same reasons I've stated before about the other cards. Next up is a figure I was dreading to see in hand because I wasn't a fan of the reveal. Blizzard was pretty outstanding even in that sea of colour synonymous with the Euro Tiger Force. His majoratively yellow deco with a hint of orange and tiger stripes was a sight to behold, and I always thought he was amazing. I received his original Action Force UK release figure on Christmas of 1988, and it was one of the best presents I could have had. When the Tiger Force version came out in '91, I was only aware of his existence via the backing cards. It wasn't until much later on when I found him in a lot of figures in a charity shop that I was able to purchase him and have been infatuated ever since. The original is just so striking that I was afraid they wouldn't be able to do a good enough job without a huge amount of new tooling, and I was sort of right. The reveal didn't hit home for me at all, and it got me very down. That is, however, until I got him in hand today. I am completely turned around. He is fantastic. Now, I feel as though the orange and tiger stripes pattern could have continued onto the collar, but other than that, I love him. He is such an interesting build and looks so cool with all those accessories that I can forgive the almost complete lack of vintage accuracy and see this figure for what he is. Awesome. His card art is weird though. The figure bubble is so big that most of it, including his face, gets covered up. They've clearly had to modify the original art quite a bit due to the huge differences between the two figures, and some of it looks out of place here. He gets his skis and ski poles, snowshoes, the snow job backpack in yellow and grey, and the rifle with the yellow wraps over it. The orange deco is very slight, and you can just about make it out on his chest, but that's my only complaint here. He looks great, and that head sculpt isn't as offensively Robert Airborne 6 or Scoop as I initially thought it would be. The yellow deco with the silver visor goes a long way to change that for me, and I like it. Interestingly enough, the bio differs massively due to the fact that they keep the US release name and birthplace when in actual fact he's Gottlieb von Trapp from Leipzig, Austria, instead of Gregory M. Natali from Wolfboro, New Hampshire. That's not the same for every Euro TF figure due to the different release dates and other random corporate decisions, but certainly in this and the next figure's case, it is. The original Hit and Run has to be one of my favourite characters in the Action Force and G.I. Joe universe. Sorry Justin Bell, I'm not copying you, I swear. He is just the complete soldier. He looks like he's always ready to go. He is covered in camo paint, he came with some really cool accessories and even had an interesting backstory fleshed out in his bio. It seems like all the cool aspects were removed from Tiger Force Hit and Run, yet I love this version even more. Camo paint completely removed, orange helmet with tiger stripes and goggles you can't use, blue shirt with orange and tiger stripe harness and camo trousers because you don't want the enemy seeing your bottom half at any point now, do you? All joking aside, I really do love this figure, and that love is only increased when you take all of those ridiculous attributes into consideration. The club have done the best they could with the modern version, and due to some elements not exactly matching the original, there were a few major differences. The harness on the original figure is just not practical. The most recent versions of Hit and Run have made him far more realistic and clearly taken cues from actual climbing harnesses and gear to give him a more believable appearance. Because of that change, they lost that solid segment in the centre of the torso that allows the orange and tiger stripe pattern to be shown off. The newer harness just doesn't have the required surface area to achieve that effect, and as cool as it looks, slightly misses the mark in that regard. The other issue is that the original has zero face paint, which is quite a distinguishing feature, so to have this version covered in the stuff takes him a little further away from the original design. I get there was probably a decision made to add this due to the lack of stripes on the front of the harness, when in actual fact it just wasn't necessary. Really wish he could have gone without this time, but hey ho, he gets his gloves, and I don't mind that they aren't super long like the originals, who basically just had all the exposed flesh painted black, it would appear, but the shorter gloves are a nice touch, yet don't make it onto the art, which is odd. The card art is also a bit of a shame. The original art followed the pose from the first release Hit and Run, but was actually quite different indeed. Due to the certain laws in Europe, the card art wasn't allowed to depict the use of guns, so they had to be held in less threatening ways or be disregarded altogether. In most cases with the Euro Tiger Force, the weapons were placed in the background, held by the strap over the shoulder, or held by different parts like the butt or barrel, with the only exception being Outback and Psych Out, who came out the year prior to these changes happening. As long as they weren't shooting them or holding the trigger, you were okay. This led to the commission of brand new art, and we got some beauties, including this hit and run art that was completely ignored for this rather poor version that was used on the back of the Assault on Cobra Island 7-pack in 2009, which was just recoloured to reflect the new Tiger Force release. That really feels like an opportunity missed here. He comes with some awesome accessories of course, the harness and backpack in that orange and tiger stripe deco, the black duffel bag, the green grappling hook and climbing pickaxe, the removable helmet and removable goggles, and that kick rifle, and he's complete. The bio differs yet again, and instead of Brian Scott from Basel and Essex, we get the US release Brent Scott from Sioux City, Iowa. Either way, I'm still in love with this guy, even though I cosplayed as the original version at Assembly Required. Full force. Despite some shortcomings in this and the other figures, I still feel great about their inclusion in this final 12. They all impressed me in hand, and even changed my mind in some cases. Hit and Run works so well with this build that I can forgive those minor indiscretions that take it away from the original character, and instead allow this new version to come to the forefront. I will absolutely cherish these, and we'll have to wait until Roma Collectibles get a few loose versions under $1 trillion so I can actually enjoy them the proper way, by taking provocative pictures of them with me in the nude. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this short series. Stay tuned for more reviews in the near future, keep it locked and sub to my channel, and always remember to make your decos as ridiculous as the Euro Tiger Force.